back in it was probably 2016. We did put on Tommy End and Will Ospreay. They also did. They then went on, I think, the next weekend and did that match at Progress as well.
I mean, you've invited half of the biggest names in wrestling into your home by now, haven't you? Really, like over the last 10 years or so. Talk to me about some of the kind of um, the names, both international and homegrown, that have made FPW what it is today.
A lot of what became NXT UK, came through our, were on our shows. Wild Boar, um, Mike Hitchman was on our shows. Um, yeah, Mark Andrews, Pete Dunne, um, Will, of course. Um, Tommy, we had twice at our shows. The yeah the yeah Colt Cabana just the once. Um, but yeah, some of the I think some of the names that became these kind of household people, especially in that UK NXT era, were doing the rounds with everyone.
Mm.
And of course, our product we would always do we usually do 5 shows a year following the WWE's big pay-per-view schedule, kind of that seasonal schedule. The back catalogue of people that we had through the door was amazing. Being around Zack Sabre Jr. at a very early point, so circa 2011 and 12, um, sort of seeing him at our shows, having conversations with other wrestlers who had fought him the night before and were still a little bit chopped up. That was always interesting. Um, yeah, it was a bit of a magical time. And then by association, TNA at the time, this is just before British Boot Camp, were very, very pro getting to know the British promotions they felt that they could trust. And at the time, very flattered to be one of those. I'd be at a Progress show at the Garage when it was 300 people, and Jeremy Borash would turn up with Rockstar Spud, and they would shoot an episode of British Boot Camp there. um, we'd get invited whenever they came to Wembley to go along. So yeah, the if you think my son was 8 when we started, and we ran for at least 5 to 6 years, that childhood was. I'm not going to
Mm.
say he had the best childhood because that's not for me to say. Even though, please, Joe, in the comments say, "Oh no, you did all right." Um, to watch people make their WWE debuts. So the day Samoa Joe made his WWE debut, he went to school, and it was like, "Oh, that's me and Joe. Look at the size of Samoa Joe's hands," because Samoa Joe waited for us backstage at a British boot camp filming because our one of our ring crew guys was working that show, knew Joe, and he went, "You need to wait for this family," and he did. Um, yeah, the day that Tommy End arrived at the WWE UK tournament, straight away the next day, there's Tommy sitting
Yeah.
next to me on a sofa. We played Pokemon Go together. It was a crazy time, and I've got a photo of Lucy and Grado, and at the time we were avid British boot camp watchers. We would just watch that every time, and we had our favourites. And Grado was just Lucy's favourite, and we booked him when we did the leisure centre shows. I've just got a picture of him drinking a pint in a tracksuit backstage. I'm talking to him, but kind of waist level is my daughter just yeah, in awe. So it was a wonderful time. Martin Stone. The list goes on and
Mm.
on and on. And then of course with other promotions that I ended up working for, being able to be around Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, yeah, all of these people, it was a real insight. But the big learning curve for me was, yes, you can get excited about these incredible people, but it's every other match that's on the card that has brought people coming back and back and back. All of the homegrown talent and the people that people do make signs for are our regular talent, as opposed to the quote unquote imports or the marquee
Mm.
guys who absolutely will bring in, say, not the neutral or the wrestling fan that doesn't necessarily attend all the time, but it is the regular guys that we book month in, month out. Those are the guys that made us and got us to the dance. I remember, again, around the time when we booked these big leisure centre shows, we had kind of a Chris Masters, Chavo Guerrero. Um, uh, we had Bad Influence, Hardcore Holly. It was just this kind of usual suspects of imported talent,
Mm.
which were amazing, and we posed for a photo with them. So me, Stephen Lee, posed for a photo, and then our regular guys at the other end of the locker room lined up and took a photo of themselves, basically going,
Mm.
"You didn't pose with us, did you?" And that was a massive learning curve for me. I remember RJ Singh posted that picture and said, "This looks expensive," and it was.
There is definitely an argument for bringing in a known American talent to a show for that marquee value, for the sign-ins, for the photo ops, to get the casual lapsed fan to your organization. Is that still a tactic that you would now and again employ, or do you feel
Um,
that the focus is homegrown, double down on storylines and the talent that you've nurtured?
it's 80-20. That's the ratio it needs to be. It needs to be, I want the people to our regulars to turn up with their signs and their t-shirts for the guy that they kind of fell in love with at the last show. Um, but yeah, if we're going to bring somebody else in, one, it has to make sense from a story point of view, and a push point of view to, yeah, kind of highlight someone else. But financially, we're in a completely different place now as a world.
Mm.
It really has to work. And so if we were to do that again, it would be one or two. I feel awkward saying two, Ben. Um, but it's not. Here are 13 people you saw on TNA, and we expect you to turn up
Mm.
and clone yourselves to make this worthwhile.
Yeah.
But the environment was different. I like those theatre venues as opposed to the
Mm.
leisure centre venues. But lesson learned, lesson learned. And that's not to say that people can't do that. People absolutely can.